There is an old joke whispered among the wealthy. How do you make a small fortune in the wine business? You start with a large one. It sounds like a throwaway line, but it is one of the most accurate descriptions of an entire industry ever spoken. A vineyard is one of the most beautiful, most romantic, and most reliably money-losing businesses on the entire planet. Nearly half of all wineries do not turn a profit at all. And yet, year after year, some of the richest people in the world line up to buy them, pouring in millions to own rolling green hills and rows of perfect vines. So what is going on? Why do smart, successful people happily buy a business that is famous for losing money? Because a vineyard is not really a wine business at all. It is something else entirely, wearing the costume of a farm. This is the economics of owning a vineyard. Let's start by being brutally honest about the wine itself, because the numbers are genuinely painful. Owning a vineyard is one of the most expensive and slowest ways to lose money in all of business. Begin with the cost of getting in. In a premium region like Napa, the land alone can run $400,000 to $500,000 for a single acre. Just planting the vines and nursing them to their first real harvest can cost anywhere from around $16,000 an acre in a cheaper region to over $45,000 an acre in Napa. By the time you have bought a modest plot, planted it, and built even the most basic winery, you can easily be $2 to $5 million in, and often far more, before you have sold a single bottle. And then you wait. This is the part that breaks people. When you plant a vine, it does not give you a usable crop for around 3 years. Then the grapes have to be turned into wine, which is aged for another 1 to 2 years before the first bottle is ready to sell. So you are looking at 4, 5, sometimes more years of pouring money in with nothing coming back. And when you actually add up the land, the planting, and all those years of costs, the cumulative cash flow of a new vineyard can stay negative for a decade or more. Now here's the truly humbling part. Even once it is running, most vineyards still lose money. Studies of real wineries find that only the top third are genuinely profitable, posting healthy margins. The middle third roughly break even or run at a small loss. And the bottom third lose enormous amounts, in some cases running at negative 50% margins, losing 50 cents on every dollar of sales. On the wine itself, for most owners, this is simply not a good business. It is a slow, gorgeous financial bleed. So we are back to the question, if it loses money this reliably, why do the wealthy keep buying? The answer is the first hidden engine, the land. You may lose money on the wine, but you are sitting on some of the most valuable agricultural land in the world, and it has been quietly appreciating for decades. That Napa acre that cost $500,000 is not just a place to grow grapes. It is a scarce, prestigious, tightly limited piece of real estate that tends to rise in value year after year, regardless of whether your wine ever turns a profit. Many a vineyard owner has lost money on every vintage and still walked away richer, simply because the dirt under the vines was worth far more when they sold than when they bought. The wine is the hobby. The land is the investment. And sitting right on top of that land is the second engine, the one that quietly makes the losses easier to bear, the tax treatment. A vineyard is a farm, and a working farm comes with genuinely favorable tax rules. For a wealthy owner with a large income from somewhere else, a business that runs at a paper loss is not purely a disaster. Those losses can, in the right circumstances, be set against other income, softening the blow of a big tax bill. The land can be held and passed down in tax-efficient ways, so the same losses that would terrify an ordinary small business owner can actually fit rather neatly into a rich person's overall financial picture. The vineyard becomes a beautiful tax-advantaged bet on land, with a winery attached almost as decoration. But land and taxes still are not the real reason most of these estates get bought, because the third engine is not financial at all. It is the trophy. For a certain kind of very wealthy person, a vineyard is the ultimate status symbol. It is not a spreadsheet, it is a dream. Your own name on the label of a bottle, a stunning estate where you can host friends, hold weddings, and pour your own vintage at dinner. A story to tell at every party for the rest of your life. Wine carries romance, history, and sophistication like almost nothing else, and owning the source of it signals that you have truly arrived. Economists have a name for goods like this: luxury items that people want more, precisely because they are expensive and rare. The Vineyard is one of the purest examples there is. The owner is not really buying a return. They are buying a feeling and a very expensive one, which is exactly why they are willing to overpay and to lose money for years without ever really minding. So if the owner is mostly losing money, who in the wine world is actually making it? This is the fourth engine, and it explains where all the money quietly goes. It flows downstream, away from the person who grew the grapes. In many places, wine passes through what is called a three-tier system. The producer is not allowed to sell straight to you. First, the wine goes to a distributor, who takes a margin. Then it goes to a retailer or a restaurant, who takes another. By the time a bottle reaches your table, the person who actually grew the grapes and made the wine often receives a surprisingly small slice of the final price. And the restaurant is the most brutal of all, routinely marking a bottle up 2 or 3 times over what it paid. So the glass of wine that cost you $15 might have left the winery for a small fraction of that. The romance is created at the vineyard. The profit is captured at the table. And within winemaking itself, the money is just as lopsided. That profitable top third are not really farmers anymore. They are luxury brands. They have turned their wine into a prestige product with a story, a reputation, and a price to match. So a bottle that costs a similar amount to produce as any other can sell for 10 times more, purely on the strength of the name. They are not selling fermented grape juice. They are selling status in a bottle at luxury goods margins. Everyone else, all those middle and bottom producers, is left competing as ordinary farmers in a business with dreadful economics. So let's step back and ask the question this channel always asks: who really profits from a vineyard? Rarely the romantic new owner, at least not from the wine. The people who genuinely profit are, first, whoever sold them the land, and the steady appreciation of that land over time. Then the distributors, the retailers, and above all the restaurants who take their cut of every bottle without ever pruning a vine. And finally, the tiny elite of prestige wineries that long ago stopped being farms and became luxury brands. Meanwhile, the typical owner is quietly funding a gorgeous lifestyle at a loss, comforted by the tax treatment and hoping the land will eventually make them whole. So should you want to own a vineyard? If your goal is to make money from selling wine, the answer is a fairly clear no. It is capital hungry, painfully slow, and stacked against you, with nearly half the industry losing money and the deck heavily favoring the people downstream. As a pure business, it is one of the worst we have covered. But if you are already wealthy and you understand exactly what you are buying, the picture changes. Then a vineyard is a trophy that happens to sit on appreciating land, wrapped in friendly tax treatment, delivering a lifestyle that money can otherwise struggle to buy. On those terms, and only on those terms, it can quietly make sense. Worth owning, as a business to earn a living, a harsh 2.5 out of 10. But as a rich person's trophy, a land bet, and a beautiful way to lose money on purpose, it is honestly close to perfect at exactly what it is designed to do. And that is the real lesson swirling at the bottom of the glass. Do not ever buy a vineyard to get rich from wine. The wine is the expensive hobby. The land, the status, and the lifestyle were always the real purchase. And the joke about the small fortune was never really a joke at all. I'm Mogul Math. Pick a business. We'll do the math.